In episode 9, it is a big day for Lumen. This is supposed to be the day where Cold Harbor is finally finished. It's at 96%. The day starts out with Helena having breakfast with her father, and then she leaves the quasi-compound to go into the office, where Milch is already there. He's got great news for Miss Wong. This is the end of her Wintertide Fellowship. This means that she will kind of graduate. Her bed is being moved from her parents' home to a place called the Gunnell Egan Empathy Center in Svalbard, where she's going to work to steward global reforms. She's going to finish out the day, and then a shuttle is going to pick her up and take her to her new life. It's worth mentioning, she kind of looks terrified, but she does get a cool bust out of it. It's the same bust that Harmony Cobell got years earlier. But in order to truly graduate from the program, she has to make a sacrifice. And that sacrifice, Milch has decided, will be her ring toss game, which he makes her put on the table and smash. Milch then heads to his office where he gets a phone call from Mr. Drummond because everybody is on high alert. This is a big day. Cold Harbor's supposed to be finished. There's only one problem. Mark isn't in the office yet. Milch's not really sure what to do other than call Mark up and hope he picks up, but he doesn't. And Milchik, Drummond, the rest of Lumen, they aren't the only ones that are worried about Mark and the fact that he's a no-show for work. So is Heli. Heli shows up for the third day in a row, and Mark is nowhere to be found. And because of the fact that he was dealing with nosebleeds, she's really concerned. So she goes to Milchik's office demanding answers. She demands to know if Mark is okay, and Milchik refuses to give her any answers and acts like this isn't a big deal. And when Heli mentions he's department chief, Milchik just says, well, Dylan's department chief in his absence. And that's when Heli really cuts Milchik to the core by saying, oh, kind of like you and Cobell. Milchik tries to reprimand her, but she says, oh, don't you mean Heli E, not Heli R? He gets really mad and reminds her that Helena Egan is his employer, she is his subordinate, and this constitutes insubordination, but Heli doesn't really care. She basically calls Milchik's bluff, knowing that he can't really do anything to her, and she walks out. Now, as for that new department head, Dylan, he once again has a meeting with Gretchen, although this time it is different. Gretchen's mood has changed. Because Gretchen told Dylan's outie about the fact that she kissed Dylan's innie. She tried to explain to the outie that Dylan's innie just reminded her of what her husband used to be. But that's not how outie Dylan took it. Outie Dylan took it as cheating. He was pissed. He told her, you can't do this anymore. You can't be going to visit me while I'm at Lumen or I'm just going to quit. It gutted Gretchen. And it also gutted innie Dylan, who had basically fallen in love with her, so much so that he made her a ring. The fact is, seeing Gretchen was really the only thing he had to look forward to, and now she's telling him it's not going to happen, it's over, this will be the last time they see one another. He tries to plead with her that he can give her the life that she wants and she should stay, but she can't do that. She leaves Dylan in the office with his finger-tracked ring. When Dylan does finally manage to get back to the office, he doesn't care about working at all. All he can focus on is Gretchen. Heli tries to pick up his spirits by saying, you could meet somebody down here, but he says all that's down here is O&D and goat people. Gretchen's my wife. And Heli reminds him that she's not his wife. She's treating him like all the outies treat them. Like they don't matter. She tries to get him back on task, reminding him that Irving was his family. And Irving left him a message, and she doesn't know what it means. But it was important enough for Irving to leave that message for Dylan, so she implores him to follow up on it. But at the moment, Dylan doesn't want to do anything. He just wants to listen to Taking Back Sundays, Tell All Your Friends, Brand News, My Favorite Weapon. Maybe mix in Just Surrenders, If These Streets Could Talk. You know what I'm talking about, Elder Emos. Dylan ends up getting up and just roaming the halls until finally he realizes he can't do it anymore. He goes into Milchik's office and he fills out an innie resignation form. Milchik kind of tries to talk him out of doing it, really just telling him how ungrateful this whole process is, but Dylan's mind's made up. He hands over his key card and he has to head to the elevator and just wait. Now, while all this is going on, Devin is transporting Mark to a secret location where Mark is going to meet with Cobell to figure out what their next step is. It's worth mentioning, Mark thinks his plan is terrible, but Devin reminds him he had brain surgery in his basement, so yeah, they're going to go with her plan for now. When they get to the location, they wait a while, and then eventually Cobell does show up. As soon as Cobell arrives, Devin says, hey, can you take us to this birthing cabin so we can talk to Mark's innie? And Cobell explains, there's no point of doing it during the day. We're going to have to do it at night, so we're going to have to wait. That doesn't quite sit right with Devin or Mark for that matter. And Harmony says, we don't even know if he's completed the file yet. I mean, I assume no. But if you have completed Cold Harbor, well, she's already dead. Mark loses it at that statement, pointing at Cobell saying she better be alive. Mark proclaims to both of them that they're leaving because if Gemma clearly is in this much danger, then they need to go there immediately. Devin talks Mark down, and then Cobell says, you need to call Milchick. Tell him that you're not feeling well, you'll be out today. And if he smells BS, then he's going to lock you out of the building. So, make it sound good. Mark doesn't want to do any of this. He doesn't want to follow Cobell's orders. And Devin, the entire time, is telling him, Mark, I get it, and I know what she put you through. This is our only option of getting your wife back. As Mark hems and haws on what exactly he's going to do, the guy he's supposed to call, Milchick, was having a very uncomfortable conversation with Mr. Drummond, who was essentially yelling at Milchick because of the fact that Mark was missing. And Milchick took it for a while, but then finally he reminds Drummond, hey, I'm in charge of the severed floor, which means when they're here. It's not my problem of what happens when they leave this building. I'm not in charge of them anymore. He goes so far as to tell Drummond to devour feculence, which even I didn't need a thesaurus to figure out what that meant. But the man just reached a breaking point and he got sick of Drummond disrespecting him. So he walked off, walking back to his office, frustrated, but that is when he got the phone call from Mark. And at first, Mark did exactly what Harmony Cobell said. He just told Milchick that he wasn't feeling well, and Milchick trying to get him to come into work, saying, I'll send a car. But the whole time, Mark's like, no, I had these nosebleeds, and I went to a specialist to see what was going on with them. Although finally, Mark got sick of lying, and he just lost it and told Milchick, look, I just need a day, okay? I need a day. I'm going through stuff in my personal life. Isn't that what Lumen's all about, the work-life balance? And you actually see a human come out in Milchick, because it seems like he does understand what Mark is talking about. And instead of trying to force Mark to come into work, he just tells Mark, will you promise me that you'll be in tomorrow? And Mark says, yeah, I promise I'll be in tomorrow. So that right there does it. Finishing Cold Harbor is going to at least wait one more day. When the day ends, you've got employees ready to start a whole new chapter of their life. Miss Wong leaving for this, whatever the hell it is. Dylan getting into the elevator for what seems to be the last time. And even a former Lumen employee, Irving, is looking ahead to the next chapter. When that day started, Irving went out, and when he came back, somebody was in his apartment, and it was Bert. Now, it's no secret that Irving had been keeping tabs on all things Lumen, and he'd been keeping tabs on Bert. After their first interaction, Irving took down some notes about Bert, mainly pointing out that Bert could easily be a Lumen thug. So when Bert got into Irving's apartment and he saw that, he kind of chuckled to himself. When Irving initially wrote that, he thought that Bert was possibly connected to a bunch of disappearances, possible deaths, but after meeting him and after having dinner with him, he feels like that's not the person that Bert is. When Irving says to Bert, I know you're not with them, Bert doesn't even acknowledge it, just telling Irving, why don't you go for a ride with me? And Irving and his dog get in Bert's vehicle. As they drive off, Bert kind of confesses to Irving a little bit. He says, I never hurt anybody. I want you to know that. I drove people places. I didn't ask what happened to them once they got there. At this point, Irving's starting to think, maybe Bert is in on it. And under different circumstances, maybe it would be, but not this time. Bert drives Irving to a train station. He buys Irving a ticket, and he tells him, get on this train and go as far as you can go. I can't know where you get off. And you can never come back to Kier. But Irving doesn't understand. He asks Bert, won't Lumen come after you? Bert explains again why he severed. He wanted to be innocent, at least part of him. And that innocent part of him fell in love with Irving's innie. Irving says, I want to remember it. because he's never been loved before. But Bert says it's probably best that we don't. They kind of go back and forth a little bit, with Irving wanting to feel the love, and Bert telling him, we're not going to be able to, and it's fine. You got to go. Irving makes one last attempt to get Bert to let him stay and try to see if they can be something, but Bert shuts it down. Irving and his dog then get on the train and they go off to their new life. But as nightfall hits, there's one person still in the building at Lumen, and that is Heli. If Dylan wasn't going to go track down that message from Irving, she was. She found it, she brought it back to her desk, and she started trying to memorize the directions on how to find this hallway. As she's doing this, all of a sudden she hears a voice from behind her say, "You tricked me." And it's her father. But because Heli is her innie, Heli has no idea who this guy is. She doesn't know that he's her father. And it's very uncomfortable. On the outside, though, Mark is able to get into the birthing retreat. Harmony Cobell sneaks him in. And as soon as he enters, it's just like when he enters Lumen. Outie Mark is no more. Innie Mark is here. Understandably, Innie Mark is a little freaked out. He's not used to this. He tries to leave, but Devin says, no, wait. If you try to leave, you're just going to come right back in. Real quick, do you remember the last thing you said to me? And Innie Mark says, yeah, she's alive. She then asks him, will you follow me? I want you to talk to somebody. And she escorts him upstairs where Harmony is waiting for him.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.